Welcome to MCO 455 Microcontroller Concepts. There's a theory section called MCO 455 AC, and there's an associated A and a B and possibly a C lab for overflow. In the first half of the course, May and June, Benjamin Scheffler will be doing both the theory and the labs. In the second half, Jason Wong will be doing the theory and the labs. There's also an MCO 455 DF theory section, and there's a D and an E lab associated with that, and these will all be run by Seda Shiva Shankar Ramani. The theory for MCO 455 is delivered in what's called a flexible mode. What this means, you can either go to the theory class room that's been assigned to do lectures and evaluations for theory, or you can do them online. As far as the labs go, you have to physically go to the labs because these are all in person. Any lab evaluations you have to do must be done in the class, and if you are not physically there and try and do it online, your mark will be assigned a value of 0 because you physically have to be in the lab to do all lab evaluations. Both theory sections are set up in the same manner. We have important dates and deadlines, course outline, and probably the most important document here is the course addendum, which we'll be looking at shortly. We also have faculty contact information, course textbook, video lectures, practice quizzes, chapter quizzes, term tests, and the final exam. Under important dates and deadlines for summer of 2025, we can see here that the college starts on May the 5th and the tuition is due then. It also tells us about what days the college is closed, and this is going to have an impact on our addendum and when various evaluations are going to be given, as we'll see. Now, as what was mentioned earlier, the course addendum is probably the most important document that you should be paying attention to, because it gives you when all of your theory and lab evaluations are going to take place, as well as what they're going to cover. You'll see that the very first evaluation you're going to have will be the Lab 1 quiz, which will be the week of May 12th. But you'll also see down here that on May 19th, the college is closed on the Monday, and that means that Chapter 1, 2, and 3 quizzes, which are here, here, and further down, will be 1 week later for only the MCO 455 AC theory class since the college is closed. In the second half of the course, Tuesday, July 1st is Canada Day, and that means that Lab 5 that would normally be given to the A and B lab sections will have to be moved down a week, and that means Lab 6 is going to have to be moved down a week, and Lab 7 will have to be moved down a week as well. Now also this is going to impact on the DF theory section because the Chapter 4 quiz that would normally have been given here will also have to be moved down 1 week only here. Also, since August the 4th the college is closed, term test 2 for the AC group is going to have to be moved up 1 week earlier. Now for the DF it's going to happen this week, and for both the AB and the DE lab sections, lab test 2 is going to happen here, and the final exam is going to happen for both AC and DF on this week here. On the third page of the addendum, it gives you a breakdown of the theory and the lab. Chapter quizzes, there's 5 of them worth 2% each, which is 10% of your theory mark. Term tests, there's 2, 30%, 15% each, and 1 final exam worth 20%. Now for the lab portion, there's 7 lab quizzes worth 10%, and lab tests, there's 2 of those worth 15% each or 30 to give a grand total of 100%. However, you must pass both the lab and the theory in order to pass the course. If you fail the lab or the theory, you will fail the course. Whether you're doing theory or lab evaluations, all evaluations are done online in a multiple choice true-false format, and there's nothing to ever be handed in. Starting at Lab 2, all labs will be pre-done in an open lab before the lab class, and in the lab class you will be given the lab quiz, and if you don't pre-do the lab in an open lab before the lab, you will not be successful. All lab quizzes and lab tests must be done in the lab class or your mark will be 0 for any lab evaluations attempted online and outside of the actual lab class. Also, leaving without submitting a lab evaluation will also be considered cheating because you can continue on with the lab evaluation when you walk out of the class. So these will both give you marks of 0. Now there's going to be a short window in which to start the lab evaluations in the lab class. For the lab quizzes, there is a 30-minute window at the start of the class before you start the lab quiz, which is time for you to actually ask questions or get help or whatever in that first 30 minutes. And then you have basically 5 to 10 minutes to get a start on your lab evaluation after that. But for the lab tests start right at the beginning of the class, and you're given 20 minutes from that beginning to actually get started the lab test. And if you miss the lab test in that first 20 minutes and don't show up on time, then your mark will be 0. Because the theory is taught in a flex mode, your theory evaluations can be done in class or online. However, you've got a 15 to 20 minute window in which to start the evaluation, and if you miss the window, whether you're online or in class, you're out of luck. You will not be able to start the evaluation and your mark will be 0. Now, the other thing is if you do the evaluation online, which you're allowed to do, I will not be able to reset your attempt or give you another chance to do it if you're not in the class and you have an issue. You're not going to be allowed to retake the evaluation at a later date since you chose to do the evaluation online. So if you choose to do it online and if your internet kicks out or something happens, that's too bad. I won't and can't do anything about it. Now, any students that are in the class to do the theory evaluation can have their attempt reset if there is a problem. Now, also for the quizzes, only the quizzes, you can get evaluation information about what went wrong if you're doing the evaluation in the class just for the quizzes. Now, anybody that takes their evaluation in class must have a laptop, tablet, or even a phone with a browser is good enough to do the chapter evaluation, chapter quizzes, term tests, and so forth. And you do need a phone to authenticate anyway for doing any theory or lab evaluation. Now, there are practice quizzes in the theory portion of the course, and they go by week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, which is the first half of the course. And then in the second half, we have weeks 7, 8, and 9, which is the 3 weeks back after the break. So the best way to learn the material is to go through the practice quizzes for each week, see how you do, and then if you don't understand why there's certain answers that are correct, you can go through the video lectures for week 1, week 2, week 3, and so forth, up to week 6 for the first half, and again week 7, 8, and 9 for the second half, to fully understand what the practice quizzes are going over. By doing that, by doing the practice quizzes first and seeing what you know and what you don't know, you can go back to the video lectures to find out what you don't know and why those are the right answers in the practice quizzes. Now, there's no marks for the practice quizzes, but it's a good way to get up to speed for the chapter quizzes. And altogether, you have 5 chapter quizzes. And these chapter quizzes are based on the practice quizzes, and the term tests are based on the chapter quizzes, and the final exam is based on all of that. So just by doing the practice quizzes and making notes, which you can do because everything is in a flex mode, whether you're in the theory class doing the test or online, you can bring whatever materials you want to help you out with any of the theory evaluations. Now, the required materials that you have to purchase for MCO 455 can be seen by just clicking on this button here, and you can see that this says parts list for summer of 2022, but this part list has not changed now in several years. So what we've done is we've populated all the labs with Freedom K64s, and the other thing that's also in the lab is a Grove shield that fits on top of the Freedom K64, so you do not have to purchase either of these 2 items. What you do have to purchase though for this course is all these other items here. Now, what you're going to find for each of these items that you do have to purchase, there's a link here, and you're going to find that of all these suppliers, DigiKey is the preferred supplier for all the devices that you do have to buy. Now, you can try Mouser or Grove, but this is the best, and I'll tell you why. If you order something from DigiKey, usually it arrives on your doorstep in 48 hours or less. And if there's any issues with the device not functioning properly, if you talk to me, they will ship you out one that will work, and they'll again be there within 48 hours without you having to send anything back. For the Grove RGB LCD backlit display, and if you look here, it tells you how many are in stock, and you just add to cart, and you do that for all the different devices that are in the list. And you can see there's 137 in stock, even shows you what it looks like and what's going to appear on your doorstep. Order these as soon as you can. Now, once you've gone through and ordered all the parts from here down in the parts list, you do have an option, if you wish, to buy the Freedom K64 and Grove Shield.